The big takeaway, Matt, really seems to be how defensive Mario Draghi was on inflation and how persistently he dismissed the rise that we've seen.
Yeah, it was interesting that we thought, and Bloomberg Intelligence had put out a piece just before this press conference saying that the ECB will likely ignore the inflation numbers that recently came out. For Eurozone inflation, if you take a look at the chart, it just goes up and to the right. And the reason is higher energy prices, and also apparently Europeans spent more money on package holidays. But we thought they'd ignore it. It was interesting to see with what force he ignored it. He said they'll continue to look through it. Listen to what Mario Draghi had to say.
Euro area annual HICP inflation increased markedly from 0.6% in November 2016 to 1.1% in December. This reflected mainly a strong increase in annual energy inflation, while there are no signs yet of a convincing upward trend in underlying inflation.
So no signs of a convincing upward trend. And I think what really put the market off or forced those market moves that you see, for example, in the euro, I noticed John tweeted a chart there, is the fact that Mario Draghi continued to kind of bring up this bazooka line, saying that the ECB will use any measures that it takes and it will go to the full extent of its mandate in order to combat a negative situation, when I think onlookers don't see it as quite that negative.
Matt, you're in Frankfurt now, you live in Berlin. Just give me a sense of the pushback from everyday Germans, not just the news conferences we hear, the presses we have in the newspapers, the comments from German Finance Minister Wolfgang Schäuble. Do they look at the inflation numbers coming in at 1.7% and say, hey, the ECB needs to raise rates? Are they that sensitive to this story?
No, of course they don't. I mean, when I talk to people who have nothing to do with the finance world and nothing to do with journalism, they talk about prices that they see at the grocery store and concerns they have maybe that peripheral countries aren't really doing their fair share. There's a concern amongst everyday Germans that aren't involved in banking that peripheral countries are getting kind of a little bit of a free ride right now at the expense of German inflation. And that's the kind of thing that I think Wolfgang Schäuble means when he talks about political problems due to ECB policy.